Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Bristol Township Zoning Hearing Board. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remove your hat and stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let me introduce a few people. Sitting to my left, sitting in for our solicitor Ken Fetterman is Mike Hanley. We got Director of L&I Bob McTeague. We got our stenographer Cindy Oliveira. Mr. Secretary, call the board, please.
Gerard Lycon. Here. Mark DeMarcus.
Here.
Jim McMahon.
Here.
Colleen Dunn.
Here.
Ed Murphy. Here.
Okay, before we get started on the agenda, we had to do some reorganization of the board. So it only take a few minutes, so if you just bear with us, we won't be long. So at this time, I'm looking for a motion for vice chair. I'm going to make a motion from Mark DeMarcus. Is there any other motions for vice chair? I need a second on Mark DeMarcus.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. I'm going to need a motion for secretary. I'm going to make a motion to Ed Murphy.
I'll second.
Second on Ed Murphy. Is there any other nominations for secretary? None? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'm going to turn the gavel over to vice chair so he can get nominations for chairman.
I want to make a nomination for Jim McMahon.
I'll second.
Ed, call the board.
Gerard Lycon.
Yes.
Mark DeMarcus.
Yes.
Colleen Dunn.
Yes.
Ed Murphy. Yes.
Congratulations.
All right, thank you. So real quick, on the agenda, if anybody's here for number 1 on the agenda or number 5 on the agenda, they are going to be continued until next month. So number 1 is Nancy Chen and C.O. Chen. That's Carroll Court, Bensalem, PA. And number 5 is Larry Fulford, 522 Stanford Road, Fairless Hills. And the address is corner of Broadway Avenue and Melrose Street in Bristol.
So that won't be until next month?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yes, that's, yep. It's going to be next, going to continue to next month, yes. The second Monday of the month. It's all.
Second Monday of the month?
Yes, yep. All right. No, nope. All right, so what I'm going to need from the board is the number 1 continuance. Council is here. He's doing 1 and 5, so he's going to ask for a continuance on 1 when he does 5. So, I'm sorry, 1 and 6. He's doing 1 and 6, so he's going to ask for that continuance for 1 when he does 6. So all we need right now is a continuance on 5 for next month, February's meeting. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion, we continue it till next month.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All right, call the board, Mr. Secretary.
Gerard Lycon.
Yes.
Mark DeMarcus.
Yes.
Colleen Dunn.
Yes.
Jim McMahon.
Yes.
Ed Murphy. Yes.
All right, now that's all out of the way, let's see, Serafin Carano, 1701 Maple Avenue, Croydon, PA. Come on up, please.
Do you have your postings and notices?
Yes, I did.
Could you bring those up, please? have any photographs of these being up? Sure, yeah, that's okay. Okay, we're good. Thank you.
You're going to get your chance to speak, sir. As soon as he gets done his presentation. Yes, yeah.
Can you raise your right hand, sir? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I swear. I do.
Can you make sure the green light's on?
It is on. It is on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you can begin.
Yes, hi. I applied for a permit for to build a garage, and I'm just trying to get a impervious surface. So, you see that I
What are you saying? I'm trying to get impervious surface?
yeah impervious surface. See that I can do remove some of the sidewalk, or I can do storm management.
All right, so that's all you got? That's your
Yeah,
presentation? So you're
yeah.
just looking to build a garage?
I'm trying to build a garage, and they allow me 35%. I'm a 41%, 6%.
Okay.
41%?
Yeah, I'm a 41%.
So you're putting on a concrete slab,
I have sidewalk, pavers.
pavers?
Yeah,
So you're putting a garage on the pavers?
correct.
Jim, the garage is already existing.
Oh, wow, great.
Over the years, it was slowly growing on every side, and this is why he's here. He's at 42%, he's allowed 35.
I have a question.
Yeah, Gerard.
1701 Maple, is that right on the corner?
Correct.
The garage is up already.
Yeah, garage is up already.
Behind the garage, I was out there looking. Behind the garage, is there like a shed that you added onto with the garage?
I remove everything.
I thought I seen something in the back left corner that looks like an old shed, and you built a garage in front of it?
No,
Had a
just the
different
garage.
roof line?
That was like a little roof that I had before, but they made me remove it, so I remove everything.
It was there today. Back left corner.
Maybe a tar.
Also, is this the garage with the telephone pole right in the middle of the garage out in the street?
Yeah, I gotta call because the post is leaning, so I gotta. The garage was there since I bought the house. I just
You bought the house with the garage there already?
Yes, but I extended to the front,
You added to the garage?
to the front, correct.
So it started as, say, a 10 by 10, and he increased.
Correct.
So it's bigger than 10 by 10.
Yeah, the one that he added on. The original garage that was
Yeah.
there was 10 by 10, that was increased in size.
I mean, I looked at it, it just doesn't look good. I mean, you got the telephone pole right in front of the garage doors, it's really close to the street.
It's been there since I moved the house.
Yeah.
I gotta
How
call.
long you been there?
About 22 years.
So that garage was right out to the street for 20?
No, it was back. It was only about 10 by 10, and I extended about 15 feet more.
Yeah, it looked pretty big.
Yes, but the post has been there since I moved. to
Does
the
it
house.
meet the setback for the street?
Yeah, there's no issue with the setback, it's the
Okay.
impervious.
So it's just an impervious problem here, right now.
Correct,
So he didn't get a permit for the extension part of it.
correct.
How long ago was that done?
I would say about almost 2 years ago.
I mean, there's an issue with the telephone pole right in front of your garage. I mean, there's a pole right there.
Yeah, I gotta call Pico to see if they can do something about it.
There's space a certain distance for a reason.
I got about 15 feet away from the post. 12 feet, I think I have.
Well, the pole's right in the middle of the garage.
Yes, correct.
All right, that's just questions I have.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else on the board have any questions? All right. I don't. Anybody from the audience want to come up? Come on up, sir. Can't wait.
Is it all the same? Oh. No, they're different.
You got to go to the microphone, sir.
Hand them up to them up there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was out there.
I should have started with you, I guess. I have several that are the same, but, this one and this one, these are all different.
You have to, get sworn in and give her your name.
Right hand, please.
I certainly can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name for the record, please.
My name is Richard Ulrich,
Can you spell your last name, please?
Ulrych,
And your address, please.
1700 Prospect Avenue.
Thank you.
So that property was the property of my parents after they passed away. My sister and I inherited it, and I purchased my sister's interest from her. And so basically I've lived on and off, had been connected with that property since 1957. So I have a pretty good idea of what goes on. There was an empty lot and a house was built there, and originally there was a carport when that house was built. So there was a concrete slab, a few poles, and a roof. And that was the totality of what was there, and it was quite small. I can't say exactly what its dimensions were. I didn't have an opportunity to measure it. Anyway, I think it was more than 2 years ago that Mr. Serrano built the garage that's already there. It was my father mentioned that had happened, that he had simply built the thing up, and he doubted whether there was any effort to seek a variance, but he was unwilling to investigate the matter, and he wasn't really sure what the zoning laws were. So when I obtained the property, I brought it to the attention of the Bristol Township that I thought that actually the main problem for me was a setback issue vis-a-vis my property, because the distance between the garage and my property is about 2 feet. And I think, I'm not sure, but the impression I have that it should be at least 6 feet or so. The other issue, of course, is...
Hold on, sir. The setback's not an issue here, right, Bob? It's just impervious surface. So it can't possibly be,
Additions with the roofs that were on the property line, correct?
Yeah, I mean, when the carport itself was quite a distance from the property line.
Yeah, so there was a period of time when he got a code violation that he actually built off the garage roofs that overhung his property fence, but they since have been removed.
Well, the one where there was the far,
If there's, I'll rephrase that, if there's any existing, they have to be removed.
yeah, if you were to look at this photo, this area here, there actually was an overlap at one point. I think that when you came to see the property, yeah.
so, but it can't possibly be 2.5 feet from the back of your property then.
Why can't it be?
Because it's not a setback issue, it's an impervious surface issue.
Okay, I understand that's what's being spoken
So
about
if-
here.
If it was a then they would need a setback variance too, and they don't need that setback, so,
Are you sure?
Is it the actual garage, or is it?
Yes, the actual garage, the wall.
Okay, well,
You can come and look again.
from the street,
Yes, I think one of the photos demonstrates the nearness.
so that wasn't interpreted on the plans that were handed in for the garage, Jim.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, the plans that were handed to you, not the physical inspection.
So if that is the case, then he will need a setback variance. But the plans that we received in our office did not state that.
okay. So do we need to go any further with this, or?
It looks like it's on property line.
I mean, even if we give him the impervious surface variance, he's still gotta come back and get a setback variance.
And if I may add, just with the impervious surface issue, when that enormous rain where they were canoeing on Spencer Drive in the Croydon Acres, my backyard had about 3 or 4 inches of water. And, you know, I've been connected to that property since '57. We would have water, especially before drainage was improved in Bristol Township, coming off of Sheldon Avenue. But I never had that kind of amount of water. And of course, it was coming into the basement. There was always a basement
I
leakage as
apologize.
well.
He was denied for the side yard setback and the impervious by myself, but he's not seeking that variance today for some reason. It wasn't in his application.
Okay, so,
He was denied. He does have 4 foot is what's shown on the plan.
so you understand, sir, excuse me, one
Yeah.
second, sir, you can continue when,
Certainly.
you understand that according to Bob McTee, the director of L&I, you need more than just an impervious surface variance. You need also a side yard setback variance. Come on up.
Okay.
You gotta be on the microphone.
No, he's measuring, the fence that I have right there, that's my fence. His property,
Sir,
I'm sorry.
can you just come up to my
Sure.
green light on?
Sure.
Yes, it-
Yeah, it is.
Slow down a little bit for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry. The fence that I have right there, I built that fence, I put it on myself.
Right.
My property extends about 8 inches more back to his property. He removed all the dirt from under the fence to to his garden. That's why all the water goes to his property. But I got 4 feet away from his property.
Listen, I'm not here to have a neighbor quarrel.
Okay.
You know, it's not what we're here for.
Okay.
I'm trying to tell you that you also need a side yard setback
Okay.
variance,
Okay.
not just impervious surface.
Okay.
So, that is too close to, I don't care if it's your fence, his fence. I
Okay.
don't- So, do you understand, like,
Okay.
even if we grant you this impervious surface variance, you still gotta come back and get a setback variance. Am I correct in that, Bob?
Correct, yeah. He's showing 4 foot, it should be 6. The existing garage that was previously there is at 6 foot. So the new one cuts out.
So, what I'm asking you at this point, and is this fine, like, should we continue with this, or should he, if he wants to continue with this part of it, he may, but if we give him a continuance,
Correct. I'd give him a continuance. I think granting a continuance, he can amend the application, repost, and
Okay.
come back.
do you understand that part?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to do that at this point?
Yes, I would like to do that.
Bob? So tomorrow or whenever you get a free minute, you gotta come back up here to the Township Building and amend that posting, and then you gotta come back
Okay.
and impervious surface, side yard setback, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay.
All right? So
Thank you, sir.
what I need now is,
I just want to ask to be made a party. I wish to be made a party to this issue of the variances.
okay,
I don't know if I'm being clear. So that I'm informed about the further,
It will be reposted again also.
He's gonna repost it.
okay.
so were you informed the last time? Did you
Yes,
get
I
a-
did receive,
You got a mailing,
from Mr. Serrano,
Then
I
you will get
received
another
that.
mailing this
And that
time.
was fine,
Right.
yeah.
all right? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, you guys know what I need, right? I need a motion for a continuance on number 2.
Motion for continuance.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Secretary, call the board, please.
Colleen Dunn.
No.
Jim McMahon.
Yes.
Mark DeMarcus.
Yes.
Gerard Lycon.
No.
Ed Murphy, yes.
All right, there you go. 3-2. All right. Okay, well, that was fun. Next on the agenda, Dwayne Miklos, 25 Good Rock Road, Levittown, PA. Yes. Please come on up, sir.
Can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Could you please bring up, do you have your notices and your proof of posting? Sure, pictures is fine. Alright, perfect. And then do you have the mailings? All right, we're good.
Okay. Good, sir, you can start.
Yes, it is. I am Dwayne, yes.
Good, sir, you can start.
Very good. About 35 years ago, I started a project in the front of my home. The original driveway was blacktop, strewed with, how should I say, trees and other things that were destroying the blacktop. The blacktop was in disarray. I had decided at that time when I bought the home that would have been one of the things I would venture to repair. Since 1987, that has been in the works. And I am here before you today for the variance of the impervious surface to continue to complete the driveway. And my original intention was I was always parking my work truck in the mud. Now, it's okay for that particular type of thing, but when you pull out, you got the mud dragging into the street, and then you got mud lines on the street. And you'd have to wait for a rain or something like that to wash away the mud. So I was intending to have a separate parking space in front of my home, off-street parking, so that I can park my work vehicle that has my tools in front of my home. And that's it. I'm just looking to see if you have any questions. I do have a intention of putting a drain grid at the bottom of the driveway and allowing some of the water that runs off the driveway back into the soil under the driveway.
Bob, does he need a permit for that?
For the drain?
Yeah.
No. But this was another one of them working without permits. I mean, the work wasn't done yet, but he was caught in the middle of installing the heated driveway. He put the pipes in the ground and dug up everything.
Well, I don't think the heated driveway should be, it's just a driveway. Even if the heat did not work in the driveway, it's still a driveway.
So, what kind of pipes did we put under the driveway?
It's PEX tubing. It's something I was.
Glycol going through there, or is it water?
It would be glycol, yes.
Right. Okay. No permit for that?
Into a PEX tubing system, but once again, the system is now empty. It has not been completely hooked up, and when it does need to be hooked up, it's ready to go. I have not used it as far as a heated driveway yet because I can't complete it.
But that's going to be part of the driveway you're putting in.
That's going to be an asset to what I'm putting in.
Saying that. Let's get the heated part of it out.
Correct.
But it's gonna be the driveway that you're putting in. It's gonna be on top of this heated stuff that,
It'll be part of,
So you got-
the concrete
so what
will
Bob's,
be,
so what Bob's saying is you were doing the driveway,
correct.
you got caught putting the heated part in for this driveway that you won a variance for.
Yes, but like I said, if the heat part works or doesn't work,
It's, right, it's here and over there, but you
You're
got.
not here for that, sir.
yes.
You're here for the impervious. He's,
Yeah, basically, that's what we're trying to,
So you're gonna be 6% over impervious,
yeah, so basically,
6%. Okay.
I have some questions.
Go ahead, Gerard.
Is this the house in Golden Ridge with the smart car sitting on top of the driveway?
yes, it is.
Okay, I'll make sure it's the right house. I stopped out and looked at that.
Okay.
You're not pulling the whole driveway out. It looked like you already did some panels.
I installed,
years.
over the years, it's been done in sections, yes.
That's what it looks like. You're down to the one section. It looked like you stopped because obviously the permit.
Yes, yes.
Issue. Pipes are already under the ground, is that correct?
The pipes are not finished in that particular section, no. They are prepped and ready to go in, but they're not finished in that section.
Now, when you go to finish your driveway, I know your apron's pretty bad. You doing that also?
Yes, the apron's gonna have to come in later after I do the sidewalk. The sidewalk's in pretty bad shape.
Yeah, so you want to.
I'm gonna have to incorporate all that in the same thing, but I'm not gonna be doing that. I'm
You're
getting,
not gonna be doing the apron.
no, I'm gonna contract that out.
Okay.
are you extending the apron?
I am going to
I think
move
it's
the
already
apron,
extended. It looks like a double apron.
yes, but there's rocks in the one part of the apron
the
and then
right side, I
stone, and then the original apron itself. So, and like I said, that's been like that for years.
Now, the sidewalk, I think you said you're doing a sidewalk too?
I'm gonna be having the sidewalk replaced, yes.
The one in front of by the street.
Yes.
So you have no sidewalk go to your front door?
To the front door would be the driveway. The driveway right now, I'm in repairs right now, trying to finish the landscape out front. So I can put a walkway to the front door.
Okay, so you do a walkway to the front door?
Yes,
Is that
there
part of
was
this?
one there, and then I rededicated the material that was there for some other use.
So if you're gonna add a walkway or
That's impervious also.
extend the apron, you're gonna need more impervious, so you might wanna ask for more percentage, or you're gonna have to come back here.
Right, and then, once again, it depends on what kind of surface I put down. So my intentions was not to put a solid surface down. My intentions is to put a impervious surface down. It could be anything from artificial grass to lock-in tiles.
You're
that
talking from the
have-
driveway to the front door?
Yeah,
Right, okay. The other stuff is already calculated for the 6%, I think.
yes, that's correct. The other walkway is on the left-hand side of the front door, which
Yeah, I've
is
seen that.
leading up to the entryway to my carport.
Okay.
You might call it a garage, I call it a carport because it has no
Yeah.
garage door.
Yeah, I see the screen in front of it.
Yes.
And the apron, when do you think you'll be doing that? Because the apron's pretty bad. and
Yeah, I know, the
sidewalk's
apron's in
really
bad shape and everything like that, and there is some rise in the concrete and everything like that. And I can probably do a cut-up and temporary repair, but I'd rather do the whole thing at the same time.
The apron and the driveway?
No, the apron and the sidewalk.
Okay. Because I seen you wanted to do the sidewalk and the driveway.
No, that walk is on the side of the driveway.
Oh, gotcha, on the side.
That's going to be on the side of the driveway
The
up
left
to
side,
my,
okay.
yes,
Yeah, because the sidewalk's pretty bad.
yes,
And the apron.
yes.
Okay, the sidewalk
But I
we're
can't,
talking about the left.
I
of the
didn't
driveway.
want to go into that part of the repair. And see, I already dedicated some finances towards the driveway already, which, since I've been stopped, I had to rededicate those to other things.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
So right now, even if I had to finish the driveway in a specified amount of time that you might give, I wouldn't be able to because those finances have been rededicated. So I had to regain the finances to finish.
Anybody else have any questions? So you realize what Mr. Matee said, that any more impervious surface, you gotta come back and get.
Correct, correct. So the driveway would be part of what we are deciding tonight, and that short piece of walkway, and then anything else after that would have to be reapplied for.
Okay. Nobody else has any questions? Anybody from the audience? Okay, what's the, it's up to the board. I need a motion from the board. What's your pleasure?
Motion for it.
I need a second for it.
Is that to approve or deny?
Approve.
Approve.
I need a second to approve, second, or a motion to deny.
I'll make a motion to deny.
I need a second on the motion to deny or a second on the motion to approve.
I'll second the motion to approve.
Do I have a second on the deny? I see none. All right. Call the board, Mr. Secretary.
Colleen Dunn.
No.
Gerard Lycon.
Yes.
Mark DeMarcus.
No.
Jim McMahon.
No.
Ed Murphy, yes. Noes have it.
Sorry, sir.
Okay. How long do I have to fill in the space?
You may appeal, if you'd like, to Doylestown, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Or, yeah, you gotta fill it in.
All right, very good. Do I fill it in? Is there a specification that
Back to grass.
it has to go back to natural gas? So I'm gonna be parking my truck back on natural gas.
Can't do that. It's an ordinance in the township, so.
Yes. A recent ordinance just passed by council, yes. Well, not just passed, several years ago, right? Two, something like that? Yes.
Well, it's not my truck, it's the company's truck. So,
Any vehicle.
any vehicle. All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay, Andres Duran, 10 Broadleaf Road, Levittown, PA. Please come on up.
Is it okay if I help him out for English purposes?
Excuse me?
Is it okay if I help him out for English purposes?
Mr. Hanley?
Yes, that's okay. Yes, please.
Do you solemnly swear that you will accurately translate the testimony given forth today?
Yes, I do.
Can you state your name, please?
Jose Ruiz,
Please spell your last name, please.
R-U-I-Z.
Sir, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Can you state your name, please?
Andres Duran.
Do you have a copy of the notices and the posting? Can you please bring those up?
Him and my brother, the owners of the property.
Okay. All right, we're good, thank you, thank you.
We own the property. Yeah.
Because you're going to be speaking in English.
Yeah.
Okay?
He speaks English, but just to understand everything.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure he
Whoever's
understands it.
speaking, we just have to make sure
Yeah.
the green light's on and speak in.
Yeah.
yeah, you
It's
both
on.
have to speak into the mic.
Yeah, that's
please.
fine, it's on.
All right. All right, Gad, begin.
You talk now? See, he can speak, right?
Listen, as long as you accept what he says,
So, thank you, board.
so at the end, when he's done, he's gonna say, do you accept it, right?
Yes.
So,
And
thank you,
then-
board. So, this is, for a user and occupancy permit for the, 5132, it's a commercial land. It's a garage that is there. You know, they purchased the property and unfortunately it didn't have we inherited some issues with the property. So it just, there's a garage there that he has, his business runs out of that yard. And he just wants to occupy the land to park his trucks, you know, his vehicles and just work out of there.
So you accept what he,
Yes, I accept it.
all right. So do you own the adjacent property to this too, or just this property? You don't own any other property on that street?
That's the only one that I own.
Okay.
So it's, and we've always didn't really understand it. 5130 is a tax parcel, which is the home where it's listed, but the garage that's next door, which is, it used to be like just a garage, is 5132.
It's all one parcel.
It's all one parcel.
We have the permit for that, no?
So what kind of vehicles is he gonna run out of here? What is he gonna store there? It's like,
So, you know, he has his landscaping trailers and a truck, you know, skid steers, that kind of stuff.
okay. Well, I'm sure the neighbors are gonna wanna know how length of a time he's gonna be running these all hours of the night, early in the morning.
We try not to.
Okay.
Try not to. Unfortunately, you know, now that he has control of the property, you know, we can settle that kind of stuff, to where, you know, when it is like winter time, stuff like that, we have to come out, you know, for emergency purposes in the middle of the night. You know, it's an unfortunate time event, but we're trying to move back away from the neighbors, you know, once everything is granted.
Just because he brought this property and it's the economic part of it doesn't mean it's considered a hardship. Does he understand that part of it too?
What do you mean by hardship exactly?
Well, to get the variance, you gotta kind of give us the hardship, why we're gonna change this variance, why we're gonna change it from residential to commercial.
It's commercial.
I mean, from commercial to residential or vice versa.
No, it's saying commercial.
Well, you're asking for a variance, right?
No, an exception to,
Exception.
yeah.
Okay. Well, you gotta give us a reason for that exception. And economics is not part of it. Just because he owns it and we don't give it to him and he can't put it there, that's not considered a hardship. You know what I'm saying?
So,
Am I
yeah.
not explaining it right? I'm sorry, maybe I'm not explaining it right.
I mean, I guess I don't fully understand what you mean.
Can you explain it a little better?
So there has to be some hardship that was not created by the property owner. And that hardship has to be, it has to be shown that if you were not granted the variance or the special exception, that there would be a hardship on the owner. And the hardship that would happen if we weren't granted? Correct. Oh, it would be very bad.
Well, that's what, but
I mean, he has probably, tienes 11, ¿verdad? 11 drogas?
Yeah, like 12 to
He would have nowhere to store his equipment,
Right.
you know, nowhere to, you know, handle his clients.
But
You know,
that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, I
That's not
apologize.
that's not considered, in the eyes of this board, a hardship, just because he bought it. It's, you know, just so you realize that, okay?
Okay.
So you can continue.
So if it doesn't get granted, it's not considered a hardship?
No. No.
What Jim's saying is, just explain your story further, why you think that the board should grant you a variance for this property.
Hemos estado limpiando el área.
Yeah, because now if you look in from before, you know, now we bought the property, it looks better because we spend money to clean up around it. Also, we want to try to apply for permits to get more
green areas, like putting some trees or more grass. But I mean, we just bought it back on November. 30 months ago.
Okay. Anybody from the board have any questions?
I do.
Yeah, Gerard.
A lot of questions. I stopped out and looked at the site. You get a lot of equipment, a whole lot of equipment. How much acres do you own there? How much property?
2.5.
2.5.
Okay, you consider putting up a pole barn to store your stuff.
I mean, that would be the ultimate goal.
Okay, you have lots of equipment. I mean, I can't say how much, just lots. It's parked all over the place. It's scattered. You got storage containers scattered all over the place. Like to see more organized. As soon as you pull in your driveway to your right, it's a disaster zone forever, where somebody was dumping dirt. It's pushed up against the fence for the neighbor's area. Am I correct?
Yeah. So the ultimate goal, sorry to cut you off,
No, go ahead.
would be to beautify the whole entire area. Like you said, unfortunately, until we bought it, we didn't have no control over everything. That would be the ultimate goal. Beautify the whole entire area. I mean, we just cleaned up towards the back, probably like a dumpster full
I
of,
seen it.
tires, picnic tables, a bunch of stuff. So if we would be granted, storage containers, whatever's not necessary, doesn't have to be there, pole barn kind of stuff, clean up everything, do some nice landscaping towards the street, grassy area, stuff like that. So just beautify the whole entire area.
I mean, just my thoughts, from walking the property. You obviously are landscapers, so you know what you're doing. You want to show off your place. You have PVC fence on 3/4 of it. Whose PVC fence is it? The neighbors?
Yeah, we don't have any fence.
Okay, I just see the border along the side. I don't know if it was yours or theirs.
No, it's the neighbors.
You need to do something for all your neighbors. I mean, it's bad back there. I mean, you need to do something.
So ideally, ideally, preferably, for the neighbors, if we were granted, PVC fence, arborvitaes,
Arborvitaes would be perfect.
so just something to, kind of.
Well, you don't need that for your neighbors. You can put that stuff up no matter what, arborvitaes.
Well,
Yeah.
we would need the permit to
To put trees up?
to put a fence up.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, there's already a fence of the neighbors, I mean,
Yeah, but they're, with the property lines, they're pushed back. So they're probably like, at some areas, like 3 feet, 4 feet back.
well, I see you started cleaning up, because I always drive by and like, ew, and then I started noticing it started getting better.
And we're trying to, little by little,
I can see that,
Yeah.
okay? I really don't like the dirt pile that's been there for 5, 6,
don't like
7,
it
8
either.
years, because that's right on the street line. You do need a pole barn. You have a lot of beautiful equipment, you need to get that put away and hidden. Anything you do with the front of the property, fence maybe, which, where people can't see it,
So that's our main goal,
yeah.
is to, for anybody that drives by, just see, nice trees, nice landscaping. They don't have to see what's going on in the back, if there's,
I know it's your goal, but man, you've been there a while. I mean, I see.
well, we
your-
just bought the
your-
property.
Yeah, but those white trucks been there for a long time. How many years were you there?
10 years. 10
How
years.
long?
10 years.
Yeah, that's what I said, a while.
Yeah, but we weren't the owners of the property.
Oh,
We weren't,
trees don't cost
we
nothing,
unfortunately didn't
you
have
know?
any control over, what we could or couldn't do.
Yeah. I understand need some variances here and whatever here. You need to clean the place up, and somehow we gotta be guaranteed that you're gonna
Okay.
make this place look nice, somehow. I know you're there, I get it, obviously you sent letters to all the neighbors, so if any neighbors has a problem here, I can understand. But you need to do something, you need to protect your neighbors. You gotta do something there. You gotta protect the front, cause it does not look good.
Okay.
You have a lot of stuff going on, I get it, a lot of stuff, a lot of nice equipment, a lot of stuff. You gotta clean it up.
Yeah, and even with that, we've cleaned up.
It's easy, you're landscapers, you got all the stuff right there to clean up.
We've been cleaning.
Yeah.
Since we bought it, we've been cleaning, as maybe you
Oh,
noticed.
10 years, it doesn't matter if you own it or not, you keep it clean,
Yeah.
Bob, is there anything else here on this property that can be built commercially, like,
2 acres?
yeah? Right, okay. All right.
it's all impervious, so it's easy for them to do something.
All right, anybody else have any questions from the board?
I have two.
Go ahead, Colleen.
You mentioned that it was a separate building that you guys purchased November of '22, and you didn't own it at that time. What utilities do you have there at your?
So we have water, electric, and we have septic system, so we don't use the sewer. We would love to one day be able to hook up to the sewer because those is just easier for us.
Okay,
That's a
Colleen.
completely
Thank you.
separate thing.
Anybody else from the board? All right, Bob, anything to add? All right. So, anybody from the audience?
Oh, I have one question.
Go ahead, Colleen.
So you're stating that you're just storing equipment there? You're not going to store mulch, dirt, items like that, to install in people's homes? You're not going to have big mulch piles?
No.
So
So
the
mulch
neighbors aren't about those?
in the springtime,
In springtime, when mulch come and we deliver it to the properties, directly to the properties.
and there is some
Yeah.
there, but it
It's
just
little,
comes
yeah.
out, comes you know.
Comes out like,
Like we have
And they-
some trees there that we water, around till we take them to a job.
Anybody else?
I may have one more question.
Go ahead, Gerard.
I guess for the solicitor, if we grant this and say, yes, we'll approve it, is there conditions that they have to clean up some stuff, organize some stuff, to get his, I guess, permit?
Sure, I mean, you could add any conditions that the board would see fit to add regarding, having to clean up the property. You can give them a time period that they have to do it within, putting up any kind of fencing, any kind of trees or landscaping. Really, anything that, the board sees fit to add can be put on as a condition, and you can add a time limit to it, whatever you feel would be adequate.
How about times of operation?
Yeah, you could add, absolutely, you can add a condition saying that the property can only be open, or the business can only be open for certain times.
I mean, I'm all about special conditions sometimes, but not for nothing. Does this township have enough people to police this? Yeah, I mean, you guys are busy.
The reason he's here is because code enforcement is actively filing citations against the property, so that's why
Right.
they started the cleanup
Okay.
process.
Right. Yeah, I mean, listen, I know you guys.
We don't miss anything, Jim.
I think you got the wrong impression of what I was saying, Bob. I was trying to be on your side here.
I have one more question.
Go ahead, Colleen.
Do you also do snow removal?
Yes.
Okay, all right. From the, you good, Drew?
I'm just thinking.
Anybody from the audience like to come up? All right, so are you back there with the glasses, please? All right. You got,
Right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
so
I
help
do.
you God?
Yes, I do.
Can you spell your name, please?
Kursat is my first name. Covan is my last name.
C-O-V-A-N?
Yes.
And what's your address, please?
5201 Bristol Emily Road. Yes, I would like to say that we've been neighbors with Andres for 5 years, since 2017. And we have not faced anything out of the ordinary or any difficulty from their property or from their coworkers or from him himself. They have always been friendly and kind to us the whole time.
Okay.
That's it.
anybody else? Thank you. Cindy?
Hi, Cindy Murphy, 317 Dogwood Drive.
Can you
If,
raise your right hand, please?
I can.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
So if you grant the variance and it has conditions on it and a timeline, and they don't fulfill those conditions, can you rescind the approval then?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Come on up, sir.
How you doing?
Can you
Good,
raise
Harry.
your right hand, please?
Sure.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
Can you spell your name, please?
Anthony. The last name is Simeone, Simeone.
Can you state your address, please?
5300 Bristol Emily Road.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I've known Andreas for about 10 years, and he is quite a gentleman. The one thing I'd like to say that I think is being overlooked, when Andreas rented the property before he purchased it, that's why all the trucks were in one area. The other area that there is fenced in, there was a lot of storage there. That was being rented by someone else. They just recently moved out, so I think he's going to do it, but I think it's going to take just a little bit of organization. He has that area cleaned, but like I said, it just became available to him, I think, right in about November or December. And Rob's was renting that area. So he had to remove all the cars and things like that. So, I just want to state that because I know he has a lot of stuff on the one side, but I believe he's going to be moving it over to the other side, but it also had to be vacant. And it did become vacant recently.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Come on up, sir.
How you guys doing? Anthony? Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
State your name, please.
Anthony Veneziale. V as in Victor. Eneziale.
Can you state your address, please?
5031 Emily Road.
Thank you.
How you doing, guys? I'm at Joe's Pizza right across the street from these guys. And I just want to second the gentleman from the existing Immaculate, the old Immaculate. They have been great neighbors. I've seen a lot of improvement as compared to what it used to be. So I think they're on the right track. And a little bit of easement on them, I think you guys will be real happy with the results. They've always been top notch, keep everything, you know what I mean? It's, but there was a lot of stuff there, like Anthony said, they had no right to touch anything in the back until recently. So I truly think they're on the right track. But I've never had a problem. I'm right across the street from them. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
It's gotta be a first for me. Everybody comes up for the application. I've been doing this a long time, and this is a first for me. Oh, we got one more. I'm sorry, I might have ruined it. Anybody else?
She had her hand up. It's your no.
Huh?
She did have her hand up.
Okay. So at this time, I need a motion from the board. What's your pleasure?
I'd like to put a motion out there.
I'm sorry, Gerard. Let's get the special conditions out of the way. If we, let's
Just
be,
clean it up.
let's be reasonable about it. All right, so let's just clean it up.
The dirt pile out front, and let's clean up the road frontage. All the
Colleen,
neighbors are happy, so I'm happy with everything.
Colleen, you got anything? Colleen,
Pardon?
you got anything, any special conditions you would like to add? Ed?
No, just clean it up, sounds good.
Just clean it up and keep doing what you're doing with your neighbors. Keep your neighbors happy.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Absolutely, that's a big thing. Good.
Would the board like a time limit?
Yeah, 90 days.
Is that reasonable, 90 days? Can you clean it up?
So the dirt pile?
Apologize. So I think that large dirt pile right now, I think it would be a little, muy difícil ahorita. I think that'll be a little difficult right now, especially if the winter.
Go, 6 months.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Is that just to clean up 6 months?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Sorry, Jim.
No, that's.
Can
Yeah.
we add the buffering for the neighbors as well? Give them until,
Yeah, I mean, you guys, you stated the arborvitae's and this is something that has to happen in a reasonably timely, frame. So, year, less? Everything's okay.
6 months, yeah.
So, yeah. Listen, your neighbors are happy with you.
Yeah.
I
can't-
mean, we just want to clean it up,
That's-
you know?
okay.
Like we said, everything will be nice on the outside. It's not going to be a mess on the inside, but what I'm saying is you won't be able to see what's back there, you know?
You guys are already a good steward of the community. Your neighbors love you. Just the arborvitae's, the fence, the dirt pile, let's get it cleaned up as much as we can with 6 months to a year on everything.
All right.
Fair enough?
Thank you. So we should be applying for a friend's
Oh,
permit.
we got to go through a motion yet.
Thank you.
You're not approved yet. I'm just trying to get the special conditions in there. All right. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll give the motion for it.
I'll second.
Okay. Any motion on not approving? All right, none? All right, call the board, Mr. Secretary.
Colleen Dunn.
Yes.
Jim McMahon.
Yes.
Mark DeMarcus.
Yes.
Gerard Lycon.
Yes.
Ed Murphy, yes.
All right, there you go. Keep up the good work, guys.
Yeah, I kind of figured, I mean, because Rob's been living out there for all the years, I mean, really can't cost a chop too much with Louis, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Well, I didn't realize they were renting for 10 years either, so. All right,
They've been over there for a while.
last but not least, DCD Capital LLC. Please come on up.
Can never figure out the townships. Not smart enough.
Whenever you're ready.
All right, good evening. Mike McGinnis here from Begley Carlin tonight on behalf of DCD Capital. And actually, Bob, if you can flip to probably, yeah, I think that's probably the best page to start with. DCD Capital is the equitable owner of 3 parcels in the township. The 05020 004, 05020 005 002, 05020 005 001, which are 3113 and 3105 Veterans Highway. The properties together comprise approximately 9.5 net acres of developable land in the township. And the proposed developable area, as you can see, I'm going to reference this a few times this evening on the site plan, is located in the commercial zoning district, which is also subject to the town center overlay district. This property, or these properties together, are even weirder because what I'm going to label, if you're looking at the site plan, the rightmost portion of the property is also zoned M1. Now, that portion of the property is comprised primarily of wetlands, and it's not going to be subject to development this evening, but we're dealing with a site that has 3 competing zoning considerations. This property, if the board is not familiar with it, is across the street from Rob's and the McDonald's and is adjacent to the large U-Haul site. Just as an aside at the beginning here, our firm and myself have been personally involved in this site for a number of years, and you would not believe the number of phone calls that I've received about developing this site for trailer storage or truck parking or some other heavy manufacturing use. Because of the location, by 276 and 95, I always thought that this site had a unique opportunity to hopefully develop this and help facilitate this into a more commercial corridor in the township. And I was excited when DCD Capital contacted our office, and I think you'll hear this evening that they're really a Class A developer. And they've put forth the effort that you would expect from a developer of their quality in terms of bringing on board a good team, T&M. We have multiple engineers from T&M this evening who are with us. We have Mark Roth from McMahon, who's been hired and has engaged in preliminary conversations with PennDOT about this site, hopefully to take the requisite time to finalize the application and develop this in an appropriate way for the township. To highlight this fact, I think we submitted our first sketch plan of the site back in July, and we're here in January making the presentation. We even recently tabled the initial application that was submitted to the township so that we could slightly tweak the design to better accommodate our prospective coffee user, which again, we'll cover at greater length momentarily. We have a handful of variances that we're going to require to really secure the variety of the proposed uses this evening. Some of those relate to unique site characteristics. The board, if our members may recall, back in 2016 when Royal Farms appeared in front of the board, there were 8 variances, I believe, that they sought at that time. Again, partially because of the uses, partially because of the site characteristics. And then we have some variances that are associated with the nature of the ordinance and how the uses are described. And again, we'll get into that with respect to testimony momentarily. When DCD, and I'm going to provide a little more background here than I normally do, when DCD got this site under contract as the equitable owner and started to think about the best way to develop this, we knew that they were going to be proposing a hotel, and then second came a self-storage facility as part of this. And I've listed those uses intentionally in that order because DCD is primarily a hotel developer. So this is not a situation, and I know there's been some concern in the past with, actually with this site, but also with some other sites, that there's some bait and switch where, okay, you know, this is actually a storage project and that's what's wagging the dog, and the hotel comes along with it and maybe it's never going to be built. No, DCD develops hotels, and you'll hear from Bill Davidson this evening that that was what initially attracted DCD to this location. And then because this is 10 acres of developable land, the storage use they thought was a compatible use that made sense. And then shortly thereafter, they engaged CBRE to really, CBRE, who's a first-in-class commercial brokerage outfit, to market the balance of the site to see what else could be brought here to develop really the best cohesive, comprehensive development that we could at the location. And part of the reason for that is, unlike a lot of developers of this nature who secure their entitlements through the township and then they'll turn around and flip the properties to end users, DCD invests in the community. DCD does not develop and then flip. DCD maintains the properties. DCD, you're going to see them here for the next decade, 2 decades, 3 decades if this gets approved. So doing this the right way was of paramount importance. One of the other items that I want to cover at the beginning of this is we always try to figure out how we're going to characterize the various uses on site, and sometimes this is an exact science. So when we filed the application, we had to label this, one of the uses, as a fast food use. We had to label another use as an auto repair use because those are the closest categories for our users at this site with what we're proposing. But first, with respect to the auto repair use, this is not what you're envisioning as an automotive repair use. This is not an automotive repair shop. You're not going to see a business that opens here that's in competition with Rob's across the street, for example. This is a state-of-the-art oil change facility. That's all this is. So this is not going to turn into a junkyard or a garage. It's going to be an oil change. And automotive repair was the closest use in the zoning code for that, so we had to apply for that particular use. With respect to the fast food use, this is designed as a well-known, for a well-known international coffee chain. This is still characterized as a quick service restaurant because we don't have a separate use in the ordinance for coffee users, so we had to list it as a fast food restaurant. And the reason we're going to be a little bit vague about the branding tonight is I can represent, and my client will affirm, that we do have signed LOIs in place for the oil change operation and for the coffee user, but because we're a bit premature in having leases signed, since we don't even have zoning, we can't stand here, and it's a little frustrating, and say, here's who the coffee company is and here's who the oil change company is, but I can make the representation that those negotiations have been extensive, and again, we actually modified our zoning application, our site plan to accommodate that coffee user as we move forward. I have what I've characterized or siloed our zoning relief into 5 different categories this evening. And I want to touch on them very briefly. So the first category relates to dimensional relief for the storage. These are variances from 205-16 A and C, and discussed these recently. It's an indoor self-storage company. We have renderings this evening. We'll go over them with the board. Because of the zoning ordinance description of mini warehouse, any indoor climate control storage facility is going to need dimensional relief with respect to parking and the size of individual units. So that was what I'll have potted as our first variance category. The second variance category is to permit the automotive repair shop and the mini warehouse use. We think they're cohesive development, cohesive uses for this development. And in fact, again, part of the property is actually zoned M1, but their developable land is going to be within the commercial zoning district, so we need variances to permit the automotive repair shop, which again, we're going to be referring to this evening as an oil change use, and the indoor storage facility, which is technically a mini warehouse on site. We have variances similar to what Royal Farm had for wetlands, which we'll get into with Chris Jensen from T&M this evening. We have variances relating to parking and loading on site. I will state at the outset that the vast majority of the parking relief that we need pertains to the fact that the ordinance requires 69 parking spaces for indoor storage, which is absurd and not needed at this location. So that is the majority of our parking relief. I can also represent that there will be an REA similar to a shopping center that you would see in place at this site. So if you're a customer who is visiting any of the businesses, you're staying at the hotel, or you're getting your oil changed, there's not going to be a demarcation point for parking spaces. You can park anywhere on site, so there will be an REA in place. And then we have a small dimensional variance relating to buffer. And that's a little confusing with the way the ordinance is drafted, because we are below the 50-foot height cap in the district, so we're not asking for a height variance. But the way it's phrased, when you're over 35 feet in height, every foot over 35 feet, you need to add an additional buffer. So that is our final dimensional variance. And again, Chris Jensen will detail that as part of his testimony this evening. To introduce my team who's with me and who I plan on having to testify, I do have Chris Jensen from T&M. I also have Jacob Tackett and David Stewart from T&M, but I'm planning on calling Chris, who's prepared the site plan, to walk through that with us this evening. I have Bill Davidson, Steve Davidson, and Evan Karsis with us from DCD. I'm planning on offering testimony from Bill Davidson, but we do have the other DCD team members in case one of them is better suited to answer a particular question the board may have. And then finally, I have Mark Roth from McMahon, who's our traffic consultant, who's here. I will represent at the outset that I'm not planning on calling Mr. Roth to provide testimony, but if the board has any questions regarding his dialogue with the township or PennDOT to date, he's here and is able to answer those questions. So with that, if it's acceptable to the board, I don't know if you'd prefer all of my witnesses be sworn in or one at a time.
What do you think, Cindy?
Okay. Bill. Got it.
Sir, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
All right.
State your name, sir.
William Davidson, D-A-V-I-D-S-O-N.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Davidson. Can you please introduce yourself to the board and state your role with DCD Capital?
Well, I'm Bill Davidson, be a little less formal, and I am a principal of DCD Capital, and as Mike mentioned, I'm here with my partner, Evan Karsis, and my other partner, my son, Stephen Davidson, who's somewhere behind me. It's a pleasure to be here. We're very excited by this project. We, as Mike said, we are hotel developers and operators, and we were in the market looking for hotel sites when we came across this site, which we think is very suitable for a hotel. It's near 95. It's in a community with good population density, people with solid incomes, a number of businesses that would draw people to the area who would need accommodations, and we just think it's a very solid hotel site. There was one problem with it when we found it, and that was it was considerably larger than what we would need for a hotel. And we very quickly had the thought that it might be suitable for self-storage because we have built self-storage in conjunction with a hotel elsewhere and with good success. And I would say that they are compatible uses. I wouldn't say necessarily complementary uses because the hotel deals with people who are from other areas coming into the area, where the self-storage deals primarily with local people who have things that they own and that they want to store, but they're good uses. I wanted to, before I get into our thoughts, any more thoughts on the site, I did want to tell you a little bit about DCD. Evan and I, and more recently Stephen, have been in the hotel business and in the real estate business for approximately 20 years. And we have bought property and we have built properties, and we have tended to, whether we bought them or whether we built them, we've tended to own them for a long period of time. And our desire is to build a larger portfolio over time of quality properties that appreciate in value, that perform well economically, and that we can be proud to own. And I was in the supermarket business, in a family business for 3 generations. We've been out of the business now for about 25 years. But our perspective on owning and operating a business in a community is that you're really part of the community. If you're going to be successful, you want people to come back and be repeat customers. And the only way to be successful that way is to do a good job, to maintain your facility well, to satisfy your customers, to deal with any problems that they have, and operate the right kind of business, not just operate a business. And with real estate, I think it goes without saying, if you don't maintain the property, it's going to go downhill and the value is going to be diminished. You want to maintain the property, reinvest in the property, and have it continue to increase in value over time. In terms of the self-storage, as I said, we thought that that was a compatible operation. Both the hotel and the self-storage are easy uses to have in a community. They don't generate a whole hell of a lot of traffic. They don't put a burden on community services, and at the same time, they tend to be relatively valuable properties, so they're good generators in terms of real estate taxes and income for the community.
And then, as I represented to the board, Bill, and if you could provide a little bit additional color on this, CBRE got engaged to attempt to fill out what we have envisioned as additional, what I'm going to call the comprehensive development on site with the pads. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I failed to say anything about it. But even with these 2 uses, we had additional land, and in order to amortize the cost of that land, it made sense for us to develop it. We hired CBRE, as Mike just said, and we're very excited to have signed letters of intent with the 2 uses that you mentioned, a coffee shop, which is a well-known brand, We can't mention the name because we're subject to a confidentiality agreement, and a oil change operator. And both uses are quality operators. They're we think, desirable uses for the community. The coffee use is particularly compatible with the hotel use because people getting up in the morning and coming out of the hotel are happy to have a place to stop for coffee and breakfast. And the oil change use is a service to the community. I think it's fair to say that that whole category of retail has become much more popular over time. People are finding oil changes at car dealers and people like that to be very expensive and time-consuming, and they like the quick in and out of an oil change specialist, so they can pay a reasonable price, get the work done quickly, and satisfy their needs and be on their way.
Right, so let's dive into each use individually, and then we'll go back to the big picture about how these are going to fit together in terms of an overall final picture. Bob, if you can flip to, yeah, let's keep it on the hotel rendering. Bill, can you just give us a little bit more about the hotel use, generally speaking? And I will actually ask at the outset, I have a rendering that we have this evening in front of the board. I guess the first question is this going to be a relatively accurate depiction at the end of the day as to what the hotel is intended to look like at this site?
Well, I would say that it's more than relatively accurate. It's a very accurate
thank you for the
depiction
correction.
of the hotel. It is a Woodspring Suites hotel. That's an extended stay brand. Most of the hotels that we operate are Woodspring Suites. They are fairly recently became owned by Choice Hotels, but it's interesting because the chain was founded, I guess at this point it's about 17, 18, maybe 20 years ago, by a fellow by the name of Jack DeBoer, who's kind of a legend in the hotel business. Jack was an apartment developer in the 60s who created Residence Inn in the early 70s, which he sold to Marriott. And then he created Summerfield Suites, which he sold to Hyatt. And then he created Candlewood Suites, which he sold to IHG, which, if you're not familiar with the initials, they're the owners of Holiday Inn and a number of other chains. And Woodspring was his last brand. He hadn't accomplished enough in his life, so he was 70 years old or something, and he created this brand. And Evan and I went down to see it, and I was excited by it because, in my mind, it was kind of like Walmart. It was do something really well, make it clean, make it a good value, good customer service, and a good price, because you've got an operating model that you can sustain that good price. And we thought that Jack was really smart in what he had done. We built our first one in 2008, 2009, and we opened in 2009, June of 2009, just in time for the recession. And just to give you a sense of, who we are, like a lot of hotel operators, we lost a lot of money in 2009. That was the financial crisis. And our occupancy was slower than we expected, and so on and so forth. But we made our mortgage payments and ran the property and could see light at the end of the tunnel, and bought our second unit, because we didn't build the second one, in 2010. And after that, continued to buy and build Woodsprings. And again, we think that we have a long-term commitment to the business and a long-term commitment to the communities that we're operating in, and we want to be good corporate citizens.
And I think if I can interject very briefly, isn't Choice the largest hotel well,
I think, I would, I'm not sure. Either Wyndham or Choice are the largest hotel operators in the world. They have many brands, and they're certainly a highly regarded, reputable company, and just not that you wouldn't assume this in a franchise environment, but we are inspected regularly. We get scored and rated on the condition of our hotels, on how clean they are, how well they're maintained, et cetera. So in order to be part of the Choice family, you have to keep up your property and maintain it well.
So I think this goes without saying, but as part of this presentation, one of the concerns generally in Lower Bucks, Bristol, other places, is people are going to build a hotel and motel, and it's going to degrade in quality, and you're going to have, you know, unsavory individuals that come and stay there, and you can make the warranty and representation to the board that that's not going to occur, that this is going to be a high quality, high class operation, and that this, in fact, I think it was mentioned by a couple members of your team that you all stay at Woodspring Suites when you travel as part of your different development presentations. Is that all accurate?
Sure, everything you've said is accurate, and I would say over the last 3 years or so, Evan, that we have renovated every one of our hotels pretty much ahead of what's called a PIP, a property improvement plan that may be required by a franchisor like Choice. We've renovated the hotels to bring them up to the standards of a new hotel, because we believe that if they're in better condition, guests are going to be happier, and they're going to be more likely to stay with us. So it's in our self-interest to maintain the properties.
And then if you can just briefly touch on, sorry, if you can briefly touch on the management, how the management of the hotel is going to function and how you normally operate your hotels from that perspective.
Sure. Our Woodsprings are operated by a company out of the Midwest called Hotel Management Company. They are managers of over 40 Woodsprings. They do extremely well as managers. They have a high percentage of the top 10 hotels performance-wise. They have a strong percentage of the what am I trying to say? I'm sorry. Of the hotels that are acknowledged as being well-run and clean and high-performing, as well as financially high-performing every year. And we've been dealing with them now since 2010, I guess it is. So we've been dealing with them for quite a period of time, and we have every confidence that they will manage a hotel here in the same with the same high standards and in the same manner. I did say they're out of the Midwest, but they manage 3 hotels for us in New Jersey, and so they're here. They have local supervisory people and so on, and they're really on top of their game in terms of the management.
Okay. And the last hotel-specific question for you, Bill, and we'll get into the layout and design with Chris as part of his testimony, is you're familiar, having done your due diligence on the site, with the surrounding properties, and there's a commercial operations here, and I would presume part of the intention with developing the hotel would not only be to have customers on site to patronize things like your coffee operation, for example, but also the idea would be there's other commercial businesses that the people staying there could also provide a bit of added financial and economic injectment into the community after staying at this site, correct?
Well, what I didn't say, I meant to say, is that, we think a hotel is a good use for any community. There are local businesses that want to bring people into the area, and they need someplace nice to stay. And if they stay here, they're going to spend money in restaurants. They're going to, who knows what. If they're here for a week, they might spend money at the dry cleaner. I mean, there are other expenditures that they're going to make that are helpful to the economy in the community. And so I think that you want a good hotel here. If those same businesses can't find some place to put up their guests, they're going to put them up in the next town over or 10 miles away or whatever it might be, and they're going to spend their money there because it's more convenient because that's where they're staying.
All right, thank you, Bill. Bob, if you can flip the rendering to should be the next page. Correct, thank you. I'll be more precise with my phrasing of the rendering at the outset here. Is this going to be what the storage facility would look like at this location?
Very much so, yes.
All right, great. Can you give a brief overview and confirmation of my representations at the outset about this being an indoor storage use and how it would actually look on this site?
Okay, well, this is obviously intended to be an extra space storage facility. Extra Space is one of the leading operators in the self-storage business. They're either the second or third largest operator, and we have signed a contract with them to manage this facility, subject, of course, to your approval and the property being built. We think they will do an excellent job. The facility itself is expected to be a 4-story facility, climate controlled, a state-of-the-art facility that can compete against anybody who's in the market.
All right. And in terms of the hours of operation, the intent?
Yeah, the office would typically be opened approximately 9 to 6, might be slightly shorter hours on Sunday. The office is open for people to come in, rent a unit, pay their bills, whatever. But the customers who have units may want to visit the unit when the office is not opened, and we would typically give them access to their unit utilizing a security code from about 6 in the morning till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So they can be on site when the office is not open, but they obviously we know who they are because they have to punch in with their unique security number. And people who, might be a tradesman who wants to store supplies there or whatever it might be, who might be a homeowner who wants to get to their stored personal items at 8 o'clock at night, they're able to get there when the office is not open.
All right. One of the other, similar to one of my questions earlier, but with respect to storage, often there's a concern that people who may be homeless may come and reside here and there's not adequate security. Can you just, again, briefly touch on with the board, the security, there's going to be video camera and those sorts of things. And obviously there's an added incentive, the fact that this is not just a storage proposal on a single lot, but because there's going to be other businesses, I would imagine you have an additional financial incentive to make sure this is run well and there isn't any negative element with respect to people who are occupying any of the units.
Sure. Well, I have not personally ever seen people living in one of these things, but certainly that's not something that's permitted to the best of my knowledge in our contract. And we're operating a storage facility, not a housing facility.
And then my last storage operational question is, I made a representation and you, I think, quoted it also as a low-intensity use. Based on your experience with this sort of development, can you estimate the number of people who may come in a given day to access their units?
Well, I guess I would say that there might be 20, 25 users a day, spread over that 12, 14-hour period of time. So it's normally a couple of people an hour. It's not a lot. And certainly does not create a lot of traffic in the area or anything like that the board would need to be concerned with.
All right, great. And then, I know I've been saying briefly, and then we've been asking a bunch of questions, but I will say briefly again here, with the oil change operation, I made a representation to the board again that this is not intended to be an automotive repair facility. It's not going to be a garage. You're not going to see a junkyard of cars. Can you just affirm that for the board as to the intent of that end user?
Well, excuse me, absolutely. I think that the board members are probably all familiar, having driven by them, if not used them, what quick oil change facilities are like. They're basically a relatively clean retail use. They have a few cars parked outside. They pull the cars into the bay. They change the oil, and people get going. And the last thing that we would want, given that this is part of a development where we have a lot more money invested in the hotel than we do in this oil change facility. This is sort of ancillary to our main business. We want the property to be clean and neat and attractive and inviting, and certainly Starbucks wants that and expects that. He did it. He did it.
We'll just edit that out of the YouTube posting for it. It wasn't me, that's all. I wrote not, don't say, it wasn't me.
A clear slip of the tongue. Some coffee shop user wants that.
I didn't hear a thing. Not a thing. We all knew who you were talking about.
Anyway, some coffee shop user, any coffee shop user would want a clean, inviting environment.
Theoretically, a Starbucks would want this.
Yes, theoretically. And, oh, well.
They're not watching tonight, it's all right.
As a hotel
They're watching
operator,
the championship game, they're not watching.
As a hotel operator, we want a clean, inviting environment, so we would not be open to something that was not that.
Understood. Parking was one of the last items I had to cover with you, Bill. As I mentioned, one of our variances pertains to the fact that we have what I would consider a significant deficit when it comes to the storage use. It's because the ordinance requires 69. I made the representation that there's going to be an REA in place similar to how a shopping center would function. Is that correct?
Yeah, we will have cross-parking agreements between the users. It's my understanding that the largest deficit is theoretically in the self-storage. And the thought that the self-storage requires, by code, I think you told me 69 spaces, is almost ludicrous. I hate to say it that way, but we literally think that we probably need between 6 and 10 parking spaces, a couple of spaces for employees, 2 or 3 spaces for people who might be either accessing their unit and don't want to drive inside, or people who are, paying their bills, whatever it is, it's a couple of people who are going to be parking in those parking spaces, and it doesn't even begin to approach the number that's required in the ordinance.
And in fact, there is some compatibility with respect to the peak hours of the intended businesses here in the parking spaces that would be available to the site in general.
Sure, that's another good point, is that the coffee use is obviously first thing in the morning, and it does spread through the day, but the heaviest use is at a time when people are leaving the hotel. We said that the self-storage use is spread through the day, but in very small numbers, and the oil change is just not a lot of cars at one time. We think that the parking that we have is more than enough to satisfy that. And in the evening, which would be when the most cars could be parked at the hotel, would be the fewest cars at the coffee use, and the oil change would be parking no cars in the evening.
All right. My last question, Bill, on your end is, can you explain to the board why, based on your experience developing, you don't believe you need specifically dedicated or allocated loading spaces for these uses?
Yeah, there are virtually no product delivered to the self-storage. There's a limited amount of product, obviously, delivered to the coffee and oil change uses, but it's not delivered in tractor trailers generally. It's in straight jobs. It's not a lot of deliveries a week, and we've never had a hotel where it's not like we're running catering and getting deliveries every day of a lot of food stuff and so on. We've just never had a need in these hotels for an actual dedicated loading area or loading dock. It's just been our experience, and frankly, I don't know that I've ever seen one of this brand of hotels that has that designed in.
And the loading, if it's necessary, could be accomplished off hours, for example. So for the coffee use, it wouldn't be competing with when peak customer traffic is there, obviously.
Right. I mean, I can't tell you exactly what time someone's going to come, but if they deliver in the morning after 8 o'clock in the morning, when people have pulled out of the hotel, there's plenty of spots for them to park. And sort of the same thing with the other uses. We've had this discussion with the coffee shop user. They have been over our site plan for months now. We've made changes to the site plan to accommodate them, and we think that we're giving them everything that they want and need to operate their business. So we don't think that loading is an issue.
Right. I have nothing further at this time for Mr. Davidson. If you'd like to open up for board questions, or if I can have Mr. Jensen testify and then open it up generally, whatever the board's pleasure is.
Any questions for Mr. Davidson? I do have one.
Shoot.
You spoke of PIP, right? So would that depend on the amount of occupancy that you guys get over several years, or the hotel performance?
I would say that that generally depends on time.
Okay.
And these are pretty high occupancy hotels.
Right.
We're also just required to maintain certain standards. So if they come in and see that they're not happy with what the condition is of the hotel, they can give us a requested improvement plan.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if you need to be referencing the site.
Yeah, great.
You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
All right. Chris, can you state your name for the record, please?
Sure. Christopher Jensen, Jensen.
All right. And where are you employed?
T&M Associates.
And you prepared the plan that's in front of the board this evening?
Yes, I did.
All right. I'm happy to walk through Mr. Jensen's qualifications. I think he's testified in front of this board before.
That's fine, yes, he's recognized as an expert.
All right, thank you. All right, Chris, can you just do a brief overview of actually, Bob, if you can go back to the first slide, it's probably better for this. The existing site conditions, and touch on the wetlands and some of the other problems the site has had in the last few years.
Sure, I can do that. So the site, as was discussed earlier,
It's about 9.5 acres. It's the area that I'm surrounding right now with a pointer. It fronts on Veterans Highway, State Route 413. There is also an access easement from Ford Road, which is a township road. That access easement is right there on the western property line. North here is to the right. And a significant feature of the site, as Mr. McGinnis mentioned, is the wetland area. And you can see the black line outlined on the northern portion of the site here. It's about 2 acres of wetland on the site. The site has been vacant for quite a long time, and other than the wetlands, it's mostly paved. And the whitish area you see here is the remnants of an old building slab from the site. So, like I said, it has been vacant for quite a while. In fact, there was evidence of homeless encampments near the wetland area recently, and when we were surveying the property.
All right. And this is properties that are subject to mixed zoning districts and an overlay, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then I had made reference to the board that the M1 district is primarily comprised of the wetland component on the eastern portion of the site plan. Is that accurate?
That's correct. The northern portion there, yes.
All right.
Yep.
So even though technically one of the uses may be permitted in the M1, we're limiting the developable area to the commercial zoning district, and that's why, for example, we have a variance with respect to the auto repair shop use.
That's
because it's
correct.
located wholly in the commercial portion of the property. Okay. Bob, do you mind flipping to the next page? And then, Mr. Jensen, can you do just a quick overview for the board about what we're proposing and which each of the different site improvements depicts here?
Sure. So I'll start with the hotel building, as the property is keyed around that, and this is the hotel footprint, 4-story building here. The main access to the site is proposed here off of Veterans Highway. It's a full access except for a left out at this time. And Mr. Roth, who's here today, has already been engaged with PennDOT to begin some discussions about that access point. There's a secondary access planned here, a right in, right out on Veterans Highway. And finally, a driveway access in the same area where there is an old access point today through an easement area. And that would allow for people leaving the site to come out to Ford Road, make their way towards the intersection, and to be able to make a left turn at the signal. The largest building here is the 4-story indoor climate-controlled warehouse, mini warehouse or self-storage. The elongated buildings here are single-story drive-up accessory type storage buildings. You can see here the coffee use in the front, and the site plan that Mr. Davidson mentioned has been vetted by that user, as well as the oil service facility in this location. You can see we are staying out of the significant wetland area, but do need some relief.
All right.
In that way.
And then the other item I would briefly highlight or ask that you affirm is this plan shows vegetation and natural plantings both on the frontage and then also with respect to wanting to maintain some sort of grass pervious buffer to the rear with respect to the residential apartment complex back there. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
All right. And we submitted, in fact, as I stated at the outset, a sketch plan in the summer, which has been reviewed by Gilmore and Associates to make sure that we're adequately capturing all the relief that we believe we need to facilitate this development. Is that right?
That's right.
All right. I'm going to do a little bit of a breakdown with you, Chris, regarding the variances that we're seeking this evening. As I said at the outset, we sort of siloed the variances into different sections that we need, and Bill and I have touched on some of those. So with respect to the storage dimensional relief, the reason why we need those variances because we're going larger than the square footage that's allowed per storage unit, essentially. Is that your understanding?
That's correct.
Okay, and the height of the unit. So we're complying with the height in the ordinance with respect to the structure in the district, but it's with respect to the specific storage use because of the way the ordinance is drafted. Is that right?
Correct. The tallest of the buildings is under the maximum height, but the individual units and the fact that it is the latest in terms of self-storage design precludes our compliance.
All right. Since we're discussing height, I made a representation at the outset regarding the fact that we're over 35 feet and why that impacts our buffer requirement. Can you point out where that is and what 205-37G actually requires and why we need relief?
Sure. So when a building is over 35 feet, in this instance on this property, any foot of height exceeding 35 feet requires an associated foot of additional setback. So this 4-story self-storage facility is approximately 49 feet tall, and that's 14 feet, obviously over 35. So it would necessitate an additional 14 feet beyond the 30 that is required. And in fact, the building itself, the tall building, is 95 feet away from the property line, so that's compliant. It's just the single-story drive-up portion that is at 35 feet, which is slightly less than the required 44.
So
a lot of numbers, but
yeah. So the intent of the ordinance, if I can translate, I think, is if you are over 30 feet, it's intended to make sure that that large building has an adequate setback from the residential use. And in fact, our large building does have that adequate setback from the residential use and would be compliant, but for the fact that there are other smaller improvements that would be within that buffer area.
Exactly.
Okay. I have a group of variances relating to the wetlands disturbance. Rather than break those down, can you just do a brief overview? I know you said we aren't disturbing. We'll just cover the wetlands.
Sure.
You're going to do it better than I'm going to summarize to the board.
So the wetlands I mentioned, it's 2.2 acres of the property, and currently there are already some stormwater management discharge points to the wetlands, and part of this project would require that we replace and improve those discharge points, which would in turn require some very limited amount of disturbance along. There's one particular discharge point at that area that I'm pointing to on the northwest part of the site, and then we would also propose what's called a level spreader, which is a way to release stormwater over a larger area that causes a little bit of disturbance. And our access point on Veterans Highway also requires a bit of wetland disturbance because there's some isolated linear wetlands right along the highway. So that portion of disturbance is one of the areas that we will be seeking relief from. It's such a small amount that DEP does not even require any mitigation because of the square footage of that disturbance. And then in addition to that, the township also has a requirement that from the actual wetland lines themselves, and not every township has this, but Bristol has it, there is a requirement that there be a limited amount of disturbance to what's called the wetland margin. And the wetland margin is defined to be 100 feet from the wetland line. So we will be disturbing, as part of this plan, greater than the 20% of that margin that is allowed. However, we will be, per the ordinance, however, we will be complying with DEP's requirements, erosion and sediment control, and all of the necessary stormwater management obligations for the site.
And in fact, with respect to stormwater management, this site should see probably a marked improvement in terms of its stormwater post-development from its current condition. Is that true?
Absolutely. There are no stormwater management facilities out at the site today, and this project would incorporate all of the state-of-the-art, latest best management practices, is what we call them.
All right, and you're going to continue to work with the township consultants and Gilmore as part of the design process to ensure we're compliant in all regards regarding stormwater management?
Yes, yes, we are.
All right, and also work in tandem with the Conservation District and PennDOT as part of the approvals, is that right?
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
And then we will, I referenced this briefly, but we'll make sure that we're complying so there isn't any light pollution as part of our land development plan if we get our approval this evening and move forward, is that right?
Yes.
All right. Do you have an opinion, Mr. Jensen, as to whether this development, knowing what you know of the surrounding community, would have a negative impact or a detrimental impact on any of the surrounding businesses or property owners?
Yeah, I do not believe it will have a detrimental impact to any of the surrounding neighbors or uses.
All right. And is this for our development, the minimum relief you believe is necessary to facilitate what we're proposing this evening?
Yes, in addition to the parking requirements that you mentioned earlier. Correct. Correct.
All right, I have nothing further for Mr. Jensen, and as I stated at the outset, I also have Mark Roth with me from McMahon who can answer any traffic-related questions the board would have.
All right. Anybody have any questions? Okay, I do have sort of a PennDOT question that
I see him smiling.
it was in reference to the Royal Farms
Yep.
application years ago. Is that something you guys are in the infant stages with? Have you spoke to PennDOT about any of that?
Yeah.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
State your name, please.
Sure. Mark Roth, R-O-T-H.
And A-R-K?
Yes, that's correct. The,
PennDOT.
so are you speaking, I'm sorry to ask a question
No, go ahead.
of you, but are you speaking directly of the Royal Farms application or our application?
Well, Mr. McGinnis, can you speak to that, please?
My understanding, and I think Ms. Pianzio represented Royal Farms as part of that application, so I never represented Royal Farms and Tom Hecker didn't, so I'm hesitant to speak on behalf of Royal Farms.
Okay.
But I will say that my understanding was there was a certain off-site traffic improvements that were requested by PennDOT, and at least what was relayed to me as part of that was the developer was hesitant to pay what they believed to be the associated costs and therefore terminated their agreement with the property owner at that
My
time.
question is, has PennDOT came to you guys, have you spoken?
Correct.
PennDOT?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it. And likewise, I and my firm were not involved in that application as well. At this particular time, we have submitted what we call a scoping application to the department. A traffic impact study, the analysis, the capacity analysis has not been submitted to the department. It has been performed, and a preliminary draft study has been developed. However, nothing has been submitted yet. As part of the scoping application, PennDOT has the chance at that point to review our trip generation, our study area intersections, also give us any feedback with regards to operations in the area. They have made comments with regards to some of the left turns at Ford and New Ford Mill Road, and New Rogers Road, I'm sorry, and have asked us to look at some advanced signalization of that intersection.
Some approvals of that.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Correct, but nothing to a significant magnitude.
And I can state briefly, and the DCD team can affirm this, but one of the first conversations that occurred between our office and the Davidsons and Evan was the Royal Farms project went sideways, and the reason, or at least what everyone was told, was because of PennDOT and the cost of the improvements. So that has been something that it is not going to come as a surprise to anybody in this room on our team that there's going to be improvements intended by PennDOT that are going to lead to our team terminating the agreement.
That's what I was kind of getting at.
They went into that with their eyes open a year ago when they got involved with the site.
All right, great, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. for you?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. So, Bob, anything to add?
Just that this project is, this project's, the property's been vacant for a long time, so
Sure.
it'd be great to see the property developed.
Okay, anybody from the audience like to come up for or against this project? Nobody? Okay. You guys know what I need now. It's a pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Call to board, Mr. Secretary.
Colleen Dunn.
Yes.
Mark DeMarcus.
Yes.
Jim McMahon.
Yes.
Gerard Lycon.
Yes.
Ed Murphy, yes.
Okay. Mike, before you go, you got to do the continuance on number 1.
I'm still here. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay.
You didn't get rid of me that easily yet.
Okay, thank you, guys. Good luck with everything, all right?
Good luck.
Good luck, sir.
Good luck out there.
Thank you for coming.
Who's the guy right there in the glasses that was sitting over there?
That's Craig Bowen, he's the president of council.
Oh, okay.
And then Cindy